Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 509, and today we're doing Battle with Misfortune Swain. And so we're back to standard. I'll leave my upsetness about the month of competitive that we have this November, this 4.11 patch for a different video, and we have to be out here in standard. So I'll go out here and just say it really quick. We'll probably have time for maybe one or two new decks, and then we're just going to have to switch back to the old standbys for the open. So you're going to get maybe two new decks, and then we'll play Jax Ornn, we'll play Aatrox Vayne, and we'll figure out something else to take to the open since you have, three days of open preparedness, and then looking at the ladder right now, it's just a bunch of Lurk and Gwen Zed and just a bunch of complete nonsense. And so it's just I'll stop there. And so, coming back into this, into the realistic way that we would be looking at this format, coming from the 4.11 variety patch, there are a total of two playable cards. And the way we're getting to two is using bust math. Enraged Fire Spitter is a playable card. The Freylord Dragon is half a playable card, and the Kingfisher, the Demacian Dragon, is half of a playable card. And so, if we're only talking about realistically playable cards in this upcoming standard format, Enraged Fire Spitter is it. Then the Enraged Fire Spitter does thankfully work nicely with Swain, a card who was buffed in the recent patch. He had been sent to 16 damage to level up, mainly due to the Watchful Idol being in existence. Now that the Watchful Idol has been nerfed from 5 health to 4, so it only gets 2 activations on its own, Swain has been dropped down to 14 in terms of his level up. And Swain, he should have the opportunity to kind of shine in this upcoming format, being back in that reasonable space, having the Enraged Fire Spitter work fantastically with this kind of deck, giving it a really strong mid-game play, fits on curve with Swain into Flame Spitter into Leviathan, and then it just gets him really close to leveling up with the 4 damage coming out of the dragon. And so if this deck isn't specifically it, if Swain Misfortune is not the answer to getting Swain leveled up in this format, I do have to believe that in standard there will be something with Swain and the dragon that works out as being relevant, whether or not that's something with like Norra or however it's taken about. That should be a real deck. And so, in terms of the Misfortune version, if you're not familiar with this, this is a very pirate-centric style of aggro deck. It has a large collection of early game aggressive units, be it the Pigeon, the Saboteur, the Shell Shocker, and the Watchful Idol. Some of these units do contribute to Swain leveling up, with the Crimson Pigeon dealing damage off of its support, the Saboteur dealing damage to the face on the attack, and that's what we're going to see kind of tie in over the course of the remainder of our units. They're both aggressively oriented, and they deal damage outside of combat to help level up our Swain. And so Imperial Demolitionist dealing damage to a unit, dealing damage to the opposing nugget, a great way to activate both things, aggression and leveling up Swain. And then things like the Enraged Fire Spitter that we've mentioned, very aggressively oriented unit that also helps level up Swain. In terms of the other factors going within this deck, I do want some kind of ways to get overwhelmed onto the Enraged Fire Spitter. I am just never a huge proponent of playing Might, and that's kind of the awkward position that this deck is in. This deck is not super interested in picking up Might style of effects because the Leviathan and flipped Swain already have Overwhelm. But my thing with Kato is he can still be a pretty meaty attacker, right? He has a high health and 4. Giving something +3 attack and overwhelm is a reasonable support. And then just naturally playing the game, right? A Kato on 5 Enraged Fire Spitter on turn 6 is not a bad curve, all things considered. And so I wanted to give Kato a try in here. As it comes down to it, if you're just being aggressive with Misfortune and you give her +3 attack and overwhelm, that's still, a pretty reasonable and strong attack. And so I'm wanting to give Kato a try out here today. Otherwise, in terms of the removal suite, packing the 3 copies of Heavy Metal is exceptionally good. There should be an absolute ton of Jax and an absolute ton of Aatrox Vayne running around. Whether or not we'll see that today, I don't know. Looking at the stats, it's nonsense. Let me just pull this up, right? This happens every Eternal season. I don't understand what happens in Standard and what people are looking to be doing, but it's what Shen Jarvan, which is a reasonable deck. This was a powerful deck in the previous patch, and it should just murder all of these other ones. But like Lurk becoming the top played deck, followed up by Zed Gwen and things like that, it's just completely obnoxious to me. This is what happens. Like, I understand it right? You know, as the new format comes out, just playing the dumb aggressive decks is a quick way to rank up. But you know, if that's all you're really, if that is your like shining light to getting into Masters, is waiting for Eternal Season to play Lurk into people that are trying to brew with the new cards, just I guess that's one way to live life. But nonetheless, I expect heavy metals to be good against the likes of Jax. They should be good against the likes of Aatrox Vayne. Nox and Fervor does do stuff like kill Nyla, deal damage to the opposing face, and give 6 tick-ups onto Swain. And then Riptide Sermon is the kind of flex card that we have in here. I'm really kind of interested in the Sermon, given that it does kill Nyla. Dealing that 3 points of damage is pretty tough for Bilgewater Noxus to do. And so I do like having access to it. And then the total package of Riptide Sermon just isn't that bad, right? Getting to kill a Nyla and get a 3/3, get 4 tick-ups on Swain and deal damage to the opposing face, it's not the worst thing that you could be doing. And so it's a nice mid-game kind of removal spell here, especially as there's a pretty big gap between our curve, right? We have a lot of very early game aggression with the 11 1-drops and 5 2-drops, and then there's just like this big gap between the Kato and Swain piece of the equation. And so we tend to find ourselves with a fair amount of spell mana going into the mid game if we don't feel like we're safe to just drop a Swain or drop a Kato. But nonetheless, that's the deck. That's what we're doing battle with today. The pay to win price is all paid up, so we're good to go there. And let's see what we do. See if we can't get out here and run into Lurk 4 games in a row. it's so weird to me. One of the things I did notice is like as we're in the Eternal Season, I always play Runeterra at the gym in the morning. I do a half hour of cardio, play Runeterra the whole time, and without fail, just run into Annie, Jen, and Lurk like literally every single day. And I think I have to have like a 25% play rate or so against Annie, Jen, and just Lurk. But as I come in the afternoon and come in the evening to play, those decks are just non-existent. It's so wild to me that stuff happens like that, but is what it is. And all right, though, up against Teemo Yuumi, the elusives coming at us. I want to get our early game aggression going on here, so I'm going to hang on to the Pigeon. We'll keep a heavy metal. It is nice to pick off one of the opponent's early game elusives with this. Not as amped about it with the second heavy metal turning up. Really just wanted one, but it should be okay.
Like the great outdoors.
Let's get in there, bird. Do that aggressive thing. This is going to be one of these games to where we'd be like, man, I really wish I was playing heavy metal instead of or I wish I was playing Make It Rain instead of playing heavy metal. We'll see. Maybe he'll play a Sting Officer and make us feel differently, but he does not. This is okay. We'll go ahead and just drop the Warden, see if we high roll an elusive. It's possible to get a blocker out of here. Didn't turn up, but I think in this space, you know, we're just gonna measure up dongs and see who can be the most aggressive. I don't want to be in some kind of control decky space here to where we're trying to heavy metal and not play units. I just want to get units on the board. You know, if he's going to make tempo plays like this with Yuumi, that does give us a chance to make for a better heavy metal on a future attack. All right. Getting him pretty low in terms of the health total. Nice to have the Nox and Fervor turn up if that's what's going to be going on here. And we'll see. If he plays a unit, we definitely want to heavy metal. I would like to heavy metal and Demolitionist this turn, open attack next turn, and then maybe finish it off with Nox and Fervor. The thing that sounds kind of disaster mode to me for this game is if we try and come out and pull off the Nox and Fervor, and then he has the burn spell to take our unit off of the board. Right, so we try and Nox and Fervor off a unit, and then he booms the unit with a Mystic Shot or something. Not ideal.
If they don't break, they'll burn.
But we'll still go ahead and drop the Demolitionist. I'm curious if opponent's going to drop Pranks here or not. I'm definitely got to heavy metal a unit after this combat, though. I would like to get the blockers out of the way. So how do we want to do it, or would we rather just add a Mirai Warden? I guess it's going to kind of depend on where the pranks land. He's really amping up the cost of his Nox and Fervor. I mean, that's fine. We can look to just cast it 2 turns from now if that's what it comes down to. But I think it's pretty reasonable to think we should be able to get 7 damage in this turn across some of this stuff. Oh, and Kato turns up. Does he ever have an answer to Kato? I mean, he can just block the unit with Teemo, but I think that's fine. Let's actually run him out. Like, we're not going to get burned out this turn, right? There's no way he has 11 points of burn, and there's definitely no way he has 11 points of burn for 5 mana. And so I think Kato's a meaty enough unit here to cause some problems, especially if we get to say he plays a unit. Sure, you know, his removal is all bad right now because he doesn't know where the Kato strike is going to land. So he needs to add a unit to the board. I mean, it's realistically going to land on the Pigeon because that's our unit with the most health. But if he finds himself in a space to where he drops below blowback mana right now, then our bird should be fine. So it's not the way it's going to go. I'm looking to just put the damage onto Kato, I think. I was looking to do it like this. Let's do it this way. We're going to lose our Poro like that. Let's keep it online. So we're not going to get the bonus on the Pigeon, but this feels like it's just a double burn spell coming in, and I am a bit concerned that if we put that point of damage from the Pigeon onto Kato, and then he we put the damage onto Kato and then he has a blowback, then we're going to have a problem. And so, as it stands, this is fine, right? He knows that he can't fall to 3. He's going to die to the Nox and Fervor, so he's got to come in and try and kill some kind of unit off. Looks like he's taking more damage now. Oh, we were dealing 12. Okay. we just had the lethal lined up on the board. Gotcha. Sometimes the mathematics are hard to do, you know. People don't believe it, but it's a fact. And parlay, cool. So we can't block the Teemo. He casts a spell, okay. Shouldn't be any way for him to deal 4 damage to our Kato, so this should be enough to end the game. It is. Beautiful stuff. GG, well played. Market a W for Kato. It's kind of interesting to stop and think how that game would have gone if that wasn't Kato and it was Might, right? We could have put a unit on the board. It would have been like a 2-1 Mirai Warden. We could have tried to cast Might in the middle of combat and our unit would have just died. Been very strange. All right, up against Gwen Zed though. I was hoping we could play against this dumb stuff. Insane to me. I don't know what the appeal of this stuff is. Like, it's like an entirety of the lineup that we just brought to the last open, right? It's like these are decks that are good on the first day of the format because nobody else has anything tuned. But if you're out here trying to make Zed Gwen a legitimate contender on the ladder, it's just extremely tough to pull off. But here, this is fine. I'm going to take the value angle here. I'm going to drop the Shell Shocker. He just may not attack. That would be kind of cool. But we're just intending on parlaying this unit away. So coming into the next turn, we'll still drop the Saboteur. The early game units that he should have, well, that's tough, right? He could have that 2-3. Let's risk it. It's like, you know, if he plays a Hallowed unit, all of our units just trade. So this is fine. But if he plays the 2-3, is that guy even in Eternal or even in Standard? The 2-3 that gives your ephemerals +1/+1? May not be. That was the concern I had, was he plays a 2-3 and then we don't have good attacks anymore. But this should be fine. We drew the heavy metal to kill off Zed this turn. So I like to think if we get this heavy metal down, we just win the game.
Nice to meet you. I'm Isla.
LOL. I got an elusive too. crazy stuff. I know, my dude. Alright, so not a great turn for us. We don't have anything to really add to the board. An opponent wants to play Gwen here, right? And so there's a very good chance that we just don't get to play any cards. Because the heavy metal into Gwen is just a waste. So a bit of a bummer there.
Master your demons.
And a Glen Keeper. I think we have to get the sapling off the board. He's at Hallowed 2. So I guess it's not enough to kill Swain, but I'm looking at, like, I want to preserve our health total a bit, but I think this is fine. We'll heavy metal the sapling. Now he can't attack with the Glen Keeper either. He'll still hit with Gwen and hit with the Shark Chariot, but oh man. Rip Swain. The thing I'm kind of hoping gives us the chance here, though, is being able to Fire Spitter and hook in Gwen.
My life or theirs.
That was a pretty good +2/+2 card, though. Pretty good. What do we got? A second heavy metal? Interesting. Is this too greedy? Like onto the ephemeral? Like I can't imagine that this opposing deck plays stuff like Vengeance. Like it's just like you might be able to fit like a tempo card into this deck, but I can't imagine that it's trying to play control-y stuff like Vengeance, right? And so I think we can take this angle to where we're going to just Fire Spitter into Gwen. And now if he wants to block with the Glen Keeper, the Shell Shocker should be enough to take it down in combat. I think that's fair.
If you do not have a part to play, take one. Our purpose calls to us. We
Sure.
cannot turn away.
Well, that's a problem. That would have been the upside here, right? Dropping the fervors onto Gwen, or dropping the damage onto Gwen so we could heavy metal next turn. Oh wow! Oh wow! Okay, that's horrible. So it's like we know that he has a stage hand in hand. There's nothing. There's no denying it. And so it's like putting the Leviathan on the board just doesn't cut it for the turn. So let's do this. I'm fine to go ahead and just heavy metal this dum-dum. He does have a dead Shark Chariot, and so we want to take that angle away. Now, if it comes down to it and we need to, we can. Oh, interesting. He didn't take the stage hand off of that card. He has this idiot. And so, God, we're just getting zinged all over the place this game.
If they
Oh,
don't break,
we can still play a
they'll
blocker.
burn.
We're going to take like 6. And Zed? Fuck me.
Nothing to fear.
That's tough. I mean, I guess we get what we ask for, not dealing the damage to the Gwen, but that was wild. I don't think the Leviathan was going to be winning us that game at any rate, but it was just the disaster mode of that combat trick. GG. Alright, what dumb aggro deck do we get to face now? None. It's Jax Ornn. No surprises seeing Jax Ornn running around. So let's keep this early game stuff. Would love to find a heavy metal. You know, No guarantees. I'm not going to hard mulligan for it. We already have a good enough hand here, but heavy metal would be nice. So I guess we'll lead with the Saboteur. Like,
No one's the wiser.
it's just, I was going to say, you kind of want to know if Omen Hawk is coming in. Because ideally, we would just trade out a Shell Shocker if he's going to play Omen Hawk. But I think it's safe. You know, like, how many Saboteur attacks do we realistically expect to get? That number is not very high, you know? And so, I think this is okay. Alright, let's get Girthy Hertha out of here. Still a lot of potential for badness here. We really need a misfortune in this space. We can't just sit around and get 2-for-1'd over and over and over and over and over again by these units. This will be big. We'll see if he hits a bonus health on his guy. If he hits tough. Must be nice. Must be nice. There's 2 equipment that you can hit in this space, right? You can hit Tough or you can hit Combat Reel. You can, I guess, technically hit Shepherd's Authority, but you can't block with Shepherd's Authority, and so it doesn't feel as good. So here I'm going to go for the Riptide Sermon. Now, if he's got the Combat Trick to save, he's going to have the Combat Trick to save against either of these, but this is just the most effective unit thing that we can do, and I would rather blow up his equipment on the Innovative Blacksmith with this heavy metal than blow up the Light of Acacia.
A good bite's the spice of life. Garlic works in a pinch.
Alright, combat time. Rip Kato, but these other attacks should all be good. Now we just need time, right? If we can play like any unit this turn, heavy metal his play, and then start running into the Leviathan, we should be in pretty good shape.
You can fix anything with anything. I'll prove it.
Drop in those heavy metals as a tempo play. It should be tough for him to have an additional unit this turn. The Omen Hawk was the draw for the turn. It's just one of those spots to where with the way his curve has gone, it just feels like a very expensive, like, odd curve. It's like playing Shyvana when things go wrong. That's big. I know all about doing that. And a fish fight. Many pains, many pains. Alright, let's send him. The thing we might be able to get in here is, like, we're not going to get Swain flipped before our next attack, right? We really needed the Leviathan on board to deal to deal enough damage, but picking up the other one is quite strong. The thing that this Leviathan lets us do is get this second Swain, and then this Swain is able to cast Ravenous Flock off of his flip. Right, so ideally we should be in this spot next turn to where we need to get five attack or 5 damages off of Swain. We should be able to get at least 1 off of Misfortune since it'll hit the opponent's face, and then we can get the Ravenous Flock for an additional 4. So he knows we have the Swains. Let's just go ahead and toss him on the board first. Ornn comes in, sure.
Wanted the god of the forge, you got him.
think we're gonna be short. He's gonna be able to. It's like we do have this opportunity to get the flip and take the Wild Claw down, but
Pledge or perish.
he's just gonna block Swain with Ornn. Okay, well, this will take him to 3. We can do stuff like draw one of our 2 Nox and Fervors and not be dead next turn.
Victory awaits.
Our poor Leviathans, though. It's so close to getting the lethal with the Leviathan damage. It didn't turn up. Them fish fights getting us good. What? GG. It's so painful seeing these heavy metals. Like the 2 games that we lost in the Open yesterday that were just kind of completely obnoxious in how bad it was were against people that just dropped an Explorer. That was all they did. You know, you're out here trying to play Bone Club, Wild Claw, Ferocity, and your opponent's putting Explorers on the board. It's a bit of a pain. Alright, though, up against Karma Sett. Need a much cheaper early start here, so let's send everything away. Look for some of those 1-drops. Our first game with Watchful Idol. Swain misses the days of getting 6 level ups off of the Watchful Idol. Play double idol and get 12 level ups onto your Swain. those were the days. Alright, let's kick it off with the tentacle thing. See what our start looks like. The Demolitionist seems okay here. We can't just Demolitionist onto the idol and see what happens. Right? We'll still get the appropriate amount of level ups on the next turn doing this. And adding in Crimson Pigeons doesn't seem that strong. It's one of these spots to where... oh, that's a 5 level up prevent there. But it's one of these spots to where... we're not going to hit anything with Parlay against this deck. So I don't think that, like, it's like a 0% chance that you get this opportunity to play Pigeon, opponent plays a 1 health unit, and then you Parlay it. So I think this is fine.
Jana, I answer.
So I'll go ahead and play Misfortune. She's going to survive the turn, right? This opposing deck might have stuff like Aftershock in it to get Misfortune off of the board, but I wanted it to be like this, so if we pick up another kind of expensiver play we want to play on this turn, we could still get all of our mana spend based on these pigeons, right? So say we pick up another Misfortune, then our mana is not as limited. Alright, combat time.
How about a duet? Not another step.
So we get 4 ticks up off the love tap. That always feels kind of nice. And then we should be able to find something amongst these units to kill post-combat, right? We can parlay this Seraphine now. That feels kind of nice.
Your wickedness shall not prosper. Sing with me.
I don't think Misfortune's going to survive the day, but this isn't a deck to where you don't attack with Misfortune. Like, this is about as good as it gets with Misfortune, just dropping these attacks and
I love ya.
getting the big love tap in, soaking up a lot of resources.
Sorry, Papa.
She's never going to flip, right? We're not playing scouts out here. So we'll see how it goes. Like the problem with our hand now is like we're not playing stuff like Eye of Nagakaboros in this deck, and so
Fix my stage first or my lyrics. So much
we
to
don't have a
do.
ton of refill. It's like we really need to be coming out here and hitting a Swain to activate these attacks.
Everything's in place. Whoa, you sound great.
Let's send them. It's like the Riptide Sermon just doesn't do enough pre-combat. We can like Riptide Sermon, Seraphine, and then try to parlay her. It's just very easy for opponent to just play another unit and then start to block the tentacle from that point. Is our Swain going to be leveled up? He will be. If we draw him or the Leviathan. Got a ton of very live draws here. We'll go ahead and summon down the Seraphine. She's not quite scary. Like, even with a time splitter or whatever, the song spinner, she's not going to be out here flipping or anything. And so the thing I'm worried about is just opponent playing Sett, but like, we can't like hit him with a Riptide Sermon, then hit him with a Heavy Metal, and then hit him with a Parlay and expect that to stop the combat. It's just not really on the table. But yeah, I'm definitely regretting not having Eye of Nagakaboros in here right now. See where this goes. I have to assume with that pass out of the opponent, this tentacle is just never dealing damage this turn. He's got a 0% chance of dealing damage this round, and so we need to get some other friends on board.
Looking for trouble? It found you. Then
Right, zing him for that 1 point. That's how you get him. That's how you get him good. Incoming 1 point of damage. Sure. The path to victory looks very far away. I mean, we got 4 damage in hand. If our misfortune for some reason gets to attack, that would get us up to 5. I don't think we can spend all of our burn on the Sett. It's just like he can attack with Sett into misfortune, and we can try and clean up with heavy metal, but if we spend both of these spells on Sett and then either A, something goes wrong, or B, like how do we even finish the game off from this point? Like I can still see a path to victory here where we draw the Leviathan and get like 4 points of burn off of him, and then we're pretty close with the units that we have in hand. But like playing Nox and Fervor heavy metal into Sett and then just having it go wrong is as much a disaster as we could ever have. All right, we got him to 8. Again, that's actually a very big number in the sense that we have 4 burn in hand, 4 burn from the Leviathan. That should be enough to end the game. Really curious what opponent's hand looks like to have 4 cards available with then absolutely nothing going on.
Empire above all.
Alright, well maybe we did it. I don't know, man.
By my hand.
Playing these dumbass karma decks, who knows? Who knows what they're gonna do. But one of the interesting spaces we have now is like we have the Swain on board with the Parlay and the Riptide Sermon. We can start dealing damage to the opposing Nugget and you know, stunning the units and trying to get damage in, and so very real opportunities to get some in. And then if he continues to do stuff like play the stagehand, you know, we got the Leviathan down. He can certainly cause some trouble. He plays like a Sett here. We can Riptide Sermon and get in for a ton. Like, it's not bad. We've definitely been in worse spots. Get this 4-attack Tentacle on the board now. Oh, what a dumb deck. Now that's the thing that I ultimately have issue with a lot of the Karma decks, right? Typically Karma Sett, in the sense that you run into games like this, and there's a very real chance, like, opponent's hand at that space was like Concussive Palm and a coin and the stage hand and just like a do nothing burn spell and Karma. And it's like your opponent plays Karma and she's not doing anything to kill you. She's just sitting here fucking around, and you just have to go back and forth like 3 or 4 turns in a row to where they don't like realistically have the way to win the game. And it's just like upsetting when you get kind of held hostage by Karma, because typically when you get to turn 10 and your opponent plays Karma, they're like a 97% favorite to win the game. And you have to make that decision of, do I want to sit around for the next 8 minutes to see if I can unlock this 3% chance to win the game? Or do I just give up now on a game that's potentially winnable? Because they do have a lot of hands, you know, when they aren't going, okay, Karma into place your bets, into coin, into place your bets, into Sett, and just have like the super combo kill right away. They do have a lot of hands that just can't win. And that especially applies in the kind of like rampy versions of the deck. This is going to be our final battle, by the way. We're just getting in 5 today. But when they have like the rampy versions of the deck, the Freylord version that doesn't have all the burn, and so they don't have these games to where they're dealing like 8 points of burn damage and getting a few points in with like Seraphine and stuff. Like it's very odd that game, you know, that deck might realistically just have Karma on the board for 6 or 7 turns and just be like, oh boy, I've got a hand of Concussive Palms and Harsh Winds, and just can't do it. So that's my Karma problem. If we're going to sit around and talk about problems all day, you know. All right. Final battle is here, up against the Donger Norra. Let's see what we can do. This should be a pretty weak matchup for us. They tend to have a lot of Pytos kind of cards to deal with our 1 damage units. We don't have any ways to deal with Norra. I have to imagine the struggle here is going to be quite real. Let's just go ahead and open. Like, if he play, it's a tough spot, right? If he has a, well, we probably should have played the unit, right? There's 2 cards to think about in this space, right? There's Norra, which we definitely want to attack into, right? He is 100% never blocking with Norra, and then Junk Construct is the annoying one. And it kind of feels like we just have to be attacking into Junk Construct, but it's tough. Alright, let's get the Misfortune down, though. And so if he has a removal spell, we have the second Misfortune. Otherwise, hopefully we can, say, play the Warden and another unit next turn or something. He's going to just immediately portal, right? Yep. Yep.
I'm one of the good guys.
Why wouldn't they?
Well, aren't you the cutest thing of a D I ever did see?
Alright, get a bit of board clear. 3 levels up for our Swain. He's got a ways to go, right? But getting the +3 on Swain takes him to 4. Then we have 6 from the Fervor and 4 from the Fire Spitter. So that is a technical way to get him flipped in this space. Let's take this Norra off the board. This stuff happening with our small units is kind of whatever. We're getting past the stage to where we can actually attack with our units and deal damage. But Norra getting more portals and stuff is going to be annoying as fuck. And so let's go ahead and do that. Again, it helps us level up our Swain. We should be able to play Swain here, Fire Spitter next turn, and then have a flipped Swain attack coming in. So I'm on board with that.
Born a patrician, I became a
God, what a zinger of a husk though. Like this was gonna be pretty okay if we were able to, you know, kill a unit with the Fire Spitter. I guess we can kill Junk Construct. Man, I had higher hopes for how this turn was gonna go. But there's a Swain flip, not bad. Swain's gonna start doing his thing out here in combat. Does that counterspell this? He's gonna get the extra 2 points of damage. Oh my god. Fucking kidding me? Senna and Badger Bear off the top, so now we can't flip our Swain? Like... okay. Okay, guy. That's just the way it is. It's the way it is, I guess. I'm more than pleased to see the vengeance come in on our dragon, though. Like again, this Norra game's kind of done here. We're on the plan of getting this flipped Swain up and running, and so I think the ideal thing for us would be we really need another way to be dealing damage to the opposing face, and you know, just the single Riptide Sermon isn't quite enough. Love to see a Badger Bear attack. If we can get this damage onto Badger Bear, then we're going to be in a spot to where we can now full clear his board with Swain. I guess we could have done the same thing with the just keep it up like this, I guess.
I've never met anyone like you.
Got a bunch of portals. Maybe we'll find a good target. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. Like with this Norra so close to flipping, that's probably just a very dangerous way to go about it. Right? We really need this Swain hit to roll through on the opponent. Let's see. Let's see how much higher we can roll here. I guess doesn't have the second vengeance, right? It doesn't seem like that's coming in. Okay. Oh boy, just the Leviathan, huh? Oh boy. I mean, at least we should be able to stun the Leviathan out of this attack. That was, I don't know. That's probably on us for letting him even be in this spot. We could have tried to kill the Norra on the previous turn and didn't do it. And now we're just getting smoked for it. We do have the potential to stun it, right? That's where we're looking now. We're gonna parlay into Norra, get the stun, and then hopefully get the clear with Swain. But
Hello, new best friend.
that's gonna be on us. Can't wait to see what this is. Yeah, I was thinking we should probably just send this to face, and we're just getting punished for it. This is, I don't know. This is one of these things I probably just need more reps in with. We've just been messing it up across the board, but I think it was still at least a good intro to the Swain stuff. We can pull it up and talk about it a little bit more. And so I think there, you know, is the potential for something with Swain. I know Swain Norra was really kind of on the rise in the space of Eternal, but when you're playing Swain Norra and Eternal, you also have access to Ravenous Flock, and so you are able to kind of much more reliably level up Swain. And this is, you know, this kind of deck was from an era of where you really wanted to be playing Swain. That was probably when he had like a level up of 12. and you could either play Swain Misfortune or Swain Twisted Fate as the good decks. And I didn't like playing the more control-y versions of Swain, and so I kind of leaned in towards Swain Misfortune. But more realistically, I don't think that Misfortune is going to be the way to go with this. It is kind of an interesting concept, but I don't I don't think the units are just strong enough, right? As we like look towards that match like against Jax Ornn in the days of old, you could craft your units to be in the way to where you're playing Legion Rearguard and Crimson Pigeon and Jagged Butcher, which we can still play the Pigeon and the Butcher for sure, but you had a lot of more high-powered stuff that could just attack through an Omen Hawk, and not being able to attack through an Omen Hawk is a very big problem for Noxus aggro decks in this format. It's the main reason as to why you don't see Nox and aggro running around at all right now is exactly that. Like it was one thing to be playing scouts to where you curve Shell Shocker into Mirai Warden and then you don't get punished for not attacking. Because you're just building up into that 6 wide board for the champion strength, right? But playing a deck like this, you really have to be getting that early game aggression in. And when you have this game to where you say, okay, I play Legion Saboteur, and then your opponent goes, cool, Omen Hawk, block. You got your 1 point of damage in, I got my +2/+2s, and then you roll into, say, 2 turns from then, and your opponent just drops a random 3-drop with +1/+1, and your attacks are just shut down for the entirety of the game. Not even the high roll games to where your opponent Omen Hawks and then immediately hits a Jax and plays that 4/3 Jax on turn 2. Just the normalcy draws, right, to where you have the Omen Hawk early into a boosted unit 2 or 3 turns down the road. It just completely shuts down all of the Nox and aggro. And so that's just such a huge pain point for this kind of deck that I don't think that this style of aggro is going to be good enough. And so it does have some elements I like, right? I do really like playing heavy metal in this format. I do like what was happening with the Fire Spitter and the Swain, but this deck is just not it. And so I'm curious a little bit more to see if we can't figure out a good space for Swain. I do like the Riptide Sermons. I think those are okay. I don't know if Alawi Swain is a thing anymore. As you're out here playing Watchful Idol, Riptide Sermon, and should be playing Eye of Nagakaboros, then Alawi becomes a fairly interesting ad. Looking through the meta report as it is right now with a bunch of just lurk and bullshit running around, Alawi Swain is not going to be good into that, but she is a potential answer. Alawi Swain or Swain Norra would be a potential kind of thing. Like I just like really like the idea that Swain is buffed. The Fire Spitter is here. The Fire Spitter is the only real card out of the variety patch, and you can typically find a way to use these in the new set and in the new expansion. Now, you would typically have 2.5 weeks to kind of figure that out. Now we really have like 3 days, but I think there might be something there in that space. But nonetheless, if you're looking at something like this, I can't recommend it. If you do want to play something like this, if you're going against recommendation, I do think it's worth looking at Eye of Nagakaboros. That one should be in here. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too. That is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope we maybe learned a thing or two along the way. And you had a good time watching. So this is Bustin' Me. Thank you for being here.